What's up, everybody? Awkward Anxious Jennifer here. And one of the reasons I started this channel was because I wanted to help people not feel so alone who are dealing with mental illness. Please forgive my dog whining in the background. He doesn't like it when I talk to myself. Anyway, today I wanted to share a little bit more about my mental health journey and some kind of scary statistics about mental health in this country and some of the things I've experienced. So I remember back being around 12 years old, and I would lay in bed at night, and I had a smoke detector in my room, and I would stare at the red light on the smoke detector and just wish that the house would burn up and that I would die inside. Now, I didn't actively want to kill myself, but already at the age of 12, I didn't want to live. I didn't tell anybody about this, of course. I think I just kind of thought, that's life. You know, life just sucks, and you just got to get through it until you die. I don't know. So I probably suffered a little bit of depression off and on throughout like middle school and high school. I had my first major depressive episode my sophomore year. Spring of my sophomore year of college. And all of a sudden, for no particular reason, no death in the family, school was going great. I really need to get a tripod or something. Anyway, just out of the blue, I was so depressed I couldn't get out of bed. I was crying all the time. I was gnawing on my fingers because fingernails are gross, so I decided it was better to chew on my knuckles instead. I couldn't do any homework. It was bad. So I went to the school counselor and talked to them and got on some antidepressants and talked to my professors. I needed extensions on some of my assignments and whatnot. And then this all happened shortly before spring break. So then I had to go home for spring break. And my parents at the time didn't really understand that depression is a, clinical illness. It's caused by problems with the chemicals in your brain, right? So my mom, who I have to preface this by saying she is my biggest ally now. She knows better now. But at the time she said, well, just stop feeling sorry for yourself. And so then I had to go back and deal with that. And as I pulled my car into the driveway, my mom met me at my car, and she told me that she got laid off. And then I lived in Denver at the time. We had the big March of '03 blizzard. And I was snowed in the house with my family. And my mom was pissed off because she'd gotten laid off. I was upset because I was depressed and nobody understood. My poor dad and my brother, they were just trying to stay out of our way. And after a couple days of being snowed in the house, I was so desperate to get out. I walked, I don't know if that was half a mile or a mile each way in the snow because nobody had shoveled yet. I mean, the snow was like up to my knees. It was a big blizzard. To get ice cream because that's one of my comfort foods. And my whole family loves ice cream, so whatever. I was having a rough time, and so we enjoyed ice cream. So, got on some antidepressants, and they kind of helped a little bit, not a whole lot. I was able to do counseling at school. Light is on my glasses. While school was in session, and then come summertime, I had to stop counseling because I wasn't in school. I had to go back home. And so not being in therapy kind of didn't help anything. So went back to school fall of my junior year, and I was not doing well. My depression was still not well managed. I had finished most of my gen ed requirements, and I still had to pick a degree and work towards that degree, but I didn't know what I wanted to do with the rest of my life because, I've always loved to write, but I had it drilled in my head that A, writers don't make any money, and B, well, I'm not good enough anyway, so what's the point in trying? I should do something more practical, like get into computers, although I hate computers. So I decided I needed to drop out of college. And at the time it was just going to be, a semester. Haha. I got an apartment in the mountain town that I was going to college in, and got a job at an apartment and whatnot. And I lost all my counseling services and medication and whatnot. I just cold turkey stopped my medication. I don't know why I thought that would be a good idea. Oh, that was bad. I basically picture the worst stomach flu you've ever had. So about 6 months of, trying to live actual adult life at the age of, I turned 21, like right after this all happened. And then I had my first major hypomanic episode, which I didn't know at the time that's what it was. It would be many years later before I got my correct diagnosis of bipolar disorder. Can't talk. And for me, my hypomanic episodes result in delusions of grandeur, usually. So I had it in my head, I was meant to be a zookeeper. That was my purpose in life, and I had to do everything I could to reach that goal. And never mind the fact that science in general, and biology in particular, were always my worst subjects in school. This was my purpose. I had to make it happen. So I came up with this big 3-tiered plan, and so I moved back in with my parents because, of course, 6 months of being depressed and trying to adult, I had racked up a lot of credit card debt. So I moved back in with my parents. I went back to school in Denver to a community college there and took biology and chemistry, I think. And I signed up to volunteer at the Denver Zoo. I wound up doing that for 2 years. And I was determined to find some sort of job working with animals because it's a really competitive industry trying to become a zookeeper. And I needed something on my resume that, I care about animals. So that's how I wound up as a dog groomer for 12 years. So fast forward a few years, I kept going back to therapy and getting antidepressants, and they would kind of work for a while, usually. Had a few more hypomanic episodes, not really knowing what they were. And eventually, after 5 or 6 years of this, I was talking to my psychiatrist at the time. Now, I'm not a big fan of psychiatrists, but that's a whole other story. They are very important, but it's hard to find a good one. Anyway, my psychiatrist at the time, I told her, I feel like I'm doing this. Now, to me, my highs didn't feel that high. I just felt less depressed. And so my psychiatrist at the time goes, well, do you think you might be bipolar? I don't know. You're the doctor. So she asked me if I wanted to try some, medications for bipolar disorder. Yeah, sure. What I'm on clearly isn't working. Let's try something else. And then I went and I got a whole bunch of books on bipolar disorder and read about it. And I went, holy crap, that's me. That explains so much. So I was 26, 27 when I was finally correctly diagnosed with bipolar disorder. And then it took many more years of seeing different therapists, trying lots of different combinations of medications to finally get kind of stabilized. And meanwhile, I started developing anxiety, mostly social anxiety, but a little bit of just general anxiety. And I was going to do statistics as I went, but I guess now I'll do them at the end. Anyway, just within the last couple months, I realized that I'm probably on the autism spectrum. And how I reached that conclusion is a long story. My therapist agrees I probably do, but he can't officially diagnose me. And the only person in town who does diagnose adults with autism is not covered by my insurance. So I probably won't get an official diagnosis, but I'm learning more about it and trying to learn some more skills to help me do more with my life. It turns out autism is really underdiagnosed in women because women present with different symptoms than men do. So that's something, as I learn more about autism in women, I want to write about that and do more videos about that, because that's how I figured out, that person, a lot of the things they're talking about, I can relate a lot to those. So anyway, so that's a little bit about my journey. Now for these statistics that I wanted to mention as I get out of the light. So as far as depression goes, what are some good statistics? So about 19.4% of all girls between the ages of 12 and 17 have experienced a major depressive episode in the last year. That's 1 in 5 teenage girls. That's kind of a lot. And then 6.4% of boys in that same age range. Now, 60% of the 3.1 million American adolescents experiencing symptoms of depression are not getting any treatment. And that's just like me. I didn't tell anybody that I wanted to die, so of course I wasn't getting any treatment for it. So that's kind of a sobering statistic right there. 3 million kids dealing with this and maybe not telling anybody about it. Now, hopefully it's better now that there's more resources, more information. There's YouTube. You can look up, what's depression look like to other people. So let's see. 37% of all adults who suffer from depression are not getting any treatment, which to me, treatment has made such a huge difference in my life, whether it's for depression, bipolar disorder, whatever. Between medication and therapy, my life is so much better than it had been before I was well controlled. Let's talk about bipolar disorder. The average age of onset of bipolar disorder is 25. So it's usually starts when you're a young adult. About 2.6% of the population has bipolar disorder. 83% of those people have a severe form of it. Now, I'm lucky. I've never had a full manic episode with a psychotic break. I've never had to be hospitalized for it. So I guess I'd say I'm one of the 17% who doesn't have a severe case. So I'm lucky. Bipolar disorder shares some symptoms with borderline personality disorder. So that's one of many reasons that bipolar disorder is really not diagnosed correctly a lot of the times. It's overdiagnosed and underdiagnosed. And a lot of the times, like with me, people are originally diagnosed with depression because that's when you go to the therapist. You don't go talk when you're feeling good, when you're feeling high, when you're feeling on top of the world. You go when you're feeling depressed. So here's the statistic. On average, there's a gap of 10 years between the onset of symptoms of bipolar disorder and starting mood stabilizing treatments. So that's a whole lot of time of people not being correctly treated for their mental disorder. And believe me, my 20s were just a mess. So that, it's a big problem with our society. And then when it comes to anxiety disorders are the most common mental illness in the United States, affecting 40 million adults. That's 18.1% of the population. Now, it's so easy for us to think we're the only ones experiencing something like this. So that's one reason I wanted to start this channel. 40 million other people experience anxiety. So that's something to keep in mind when you're feeling alone, feeling like nobody understands. There are a lot of people out there who do understand. It's just, you have to find a community of people who also understand. Nearly half of all people who have depression also suffer from an anxiety disorder. So depression and anxiety are definitely tied together pretty strongly. Anyway, this video is really long already. If you are still watching, thank you. I hope I helped you or informed you or something in any way. If you have any mental health topics you want me to talk about, discuss, look into facts, talk about my experience with, please let me know in the comments. I want to tell you what you want to learn, I guess. I don't know. That's me being awkward. So everybody have a great day. This is Awkward Anxious Jennifer signing out. Bye.